Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wynn's Literary Lounge. I'm your host, Winifred or Winnie Tato, and I'm happy to have you join us on another whimsical evening at the lounge. As always, we'll be discovering new delightful drinks, snacks, books, and authors. Starting first with the sip and read segment, then going into our chat with creators where we welcome in newcomers to the lounge and their journeys through the literary world and exploring how they became published authors. And lastly, we'll close out with Wynn's Writing Corner and a few messages from our sponsors. So hang in tight, find a cozy nook, and prepare to be whisked away on another literary adventure like no other. So we're back with another Sip and Read, our segment where we talk about amazing books, some new amazing snacks or drinks I think you should try out with these book pairings, and of course, what new books I think we should be reading or you have sent over to me to check out and support. So the book I want to share is special because it's one of the first books we published under our publishing company, Wynn's Books Publishing, and it is, there we go, From One Coat to the Next, and this is the pre-order copy, so it is now released for sale, and you can purchase it anywhere: Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, etc. Any books retailers in your area. And it is from our author, Dan Owens Reed, and he writes about his experience in different codes of life, whether it be spirituality, whether it be friendships, whether it be the cults in Hollywood, fame, and all of the things in between. So just to read a little bit from just the blurb of the book, From One Coat to the Next by Dan Owens Reed explores self-discovery, self-acceptance, and unraveling the true meaning of faith, community, and impact in our desire for intimacy. This poignant memoir is a must-read for anyone seeking a thought-provoking, uplifting, and deeply human exploration of resilience and self-realization amidst chaos and searching for human connection and prosperity. So what I love about this memoir is, again, just the rawness that Dan writes about his experiences through life, his challenges he has faced, whether it be early childhood abuse to working in Hollywood, touring with celebrities, singers such as Lady Gaga, and then how he ended up homeless after all of this process, and what led to that, and what led to all of these discoveries and teachings along the way, and his viewpoint of life. It's a very, again, great book to just sit down and really reflect about how we move within our world and how that impacts other people. I think of this book and think of Dan as an author, I think of charcuterie boards. Just because of the vibrancy, the different tastes, smells, and experiences you can get through with a charcuterie board. So I think if you are a lover of cheeses and crackers and fruit and trying different pairings, I think this book would be suited for that. Or that's how I see this book as a representation. I think it's very fun, very interesting, and you have all these different layers and flavors to it to explore, to understand, to really digest and learn more about. Dan does a great job at having you really self-reflect on ideologies and where those ideologies came from and how he came to be with his own ideologies and showing the history of that and his thought process. So I definitely think if I could give this book a personification or foodification, it would probably be a charcuterie board, just again with the mix of fruits and vegetables and crackers and salami. I love salami. I think this book really hones in on that. Again, just the adventure and just, again, trial and error, seeing what you do like, seeing what works with you, what doesn't work with you, to really curate something that is both all over the place, but still a sort of contained chaos. And right before we get into meeting our newcomer to the lounge, I want to share a few words from some of our sponsors. Hello, everyone. Glad to have you back. We are here with our author. We're here with our author of the show today, Miss Paula Bay. Can't wait to start chatting with her. Paula is a multiple award-winning children's author. So happy to have her here to talk about her stories, to talk about why she's inspired to write for children and write about children's stories. And I just can't wait to really get into it. So, without further ado, hello, Miss Paula. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well.
That's
As
good.
as we always start off the show, we ask you what you bring to the lounge, whether it be your favorite drink or snack or something that inspired your own books.
My favorite drink I always have is coffee. So I am a coffee head through and through. So I just drank a cup right before I came on. So coffee would be my choice.
Yes, see, I think I'm kind of like a little kid where I have too much energy. So coffee, I just drink a little and then I'm good for like 3 4 days. And
Oh no. Oh,
yeah,
no.
I have too much energy.
I'm going crazy if I don't have coffee in 3, 4 days. Hey.
So, today, of course, we're going to be talking about the magic of seeing yourself in stories and how you try to best portray that for children, especially Black and Brown kids, and how they can portray and see themselves in stories.
Yeah.
So, I want to ask you, starting off, how do you believe representation impacts young readers' self esteem?
I feel that it impacts their self-esteem because not seeing themselves represented, it feels like something's wrong with them. Well, that's how I felt when I was a young girl. Back in the day, there was not one picture book that I read that had someone that looked like me. So it made me feel like, as a kid, I was just like, why isn't there ever any, characters like me? Not even in the background, definitely not the heroine of the story. So I think it makes you feel like there's something wrong with you because other kids are being, or just a particular type of child is being recognized in stories and you're not. So as a child, you just automatically think, well, there's the way I look, there might be something wrong with me, or there has to be something wrong with me. So I think it's really important that representation is in children's books, especially because it does affect a child's self-esteem tremendously. And people think it's just a little something little, but that seed is planted early, like what is wrong with me? So definitely affects self-esteem.
I definitely agree with you that, when you don't see yourself in certain positions or in media, it's hard to see you as a person in those roles. It's hard to see yourself as a doctor if you've never seen Black doctors. It's hard to
Exactly.
see yourself as the president if you've never seen Black presidents, or as a queen or king, or a prince or a princess, or maybe just someone who works at a retail store, or owning a small business. So the small things really do count and make such a worldwide difference, especially for young minds. So definitely, representation does impact. I truly
Definitely.
do believe.
Without a doubt.
Yes, it does impact readers or young readers' self-esteem, and even older readers too. Because
Yeah,
I think I still get joy when I see books with Black and brown babies on them, and I'm like, oh, look at that, because I know that they're getting taken care of and getting to see those characters that maybe I didn't
exactly.
get to see a lot when I was a child.
And yes, and I didn't get to see a lot of things as a child with people that look like me. So now, as things have gotten definitely progressed, it's great to see. Like, even when we got a first Black president, I was in shock because I'm just like, I never saw it, so I never thought it would happen. You know what I'm saying? So I'm constantly being like, wow, these days, because as a child growing up, I wasn't exposed or saw any of those things.
Agreed. But again, thank you for taking on one of those challenges, because it is a challenge. And with challenges, what challenges do you think you face writing and ensuring that diverse representation in children's literature was prominent for your literary career? Because I do think that there are some challenges when it does come to publishing and promoting outside the norm. If that makes sense.
Yes, being a self-publisher, it gives me freedom to do the things that I wanted to do, how I wanted my book to be, what characters I wanted. So that's a plus. But I felt like if I did go the traditional route, it would have been definitely, I might have not have been able to bring Peyton to the forefront and let Peyton see her. Um, so yeah, that is that in that aspect would have definitely been challenging. Just getting, I've been on podcasts where I could feel like people didn't really understand, like, why did I write a book about a little girl who likes hip hop? And I'm just like, it was, you know, I guess you don't get it in my book. It's not for everyone to get, but there's a little girl out there who loves hip hop, who it's something that she cherishes and something that helps her. So that's why, because that little girl was like me. So that's what I wanted to do. But I think it's just people not understanding and not exposed to diversity. They're in like a little box and what the norm is. And just the same story over and over again, and I didn't want to do that.
Yes.
I didn't want to just have like a rhyming book with the same story or the same characters or talking animals. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I knew what I wanted to bring to children's literature, and I didn't want to be not authentic. I mean, when you write, you bring things that are important to you, and you incorporate them into your story. Hip hop is a huge part of my life. Writing is a huge part of my life, and I wanted to combine the two with a little girl who looks like me and other little girls around the world. So it's difficult when people just don't get it and they act like it's something, like, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just do this? Because I'm trying to break away from the norm. There's a whole world out here of people who do, of little girls who get that, you know what I'm saying, who has big hair, and they see it on a cover. I mean, it's important to them. So it's frustrating when people just don't understand, and instead of being like, that's different, that's good, they just don't get it. So there's always challenges and everything, but for me, I know this is what I was called to do as far as the character I was supposed to bring to children's literature, and that's what I'll keep doing.
Wonderful. I definitely resonate with you saying that, um, having those barriers and not being able to see yourself. And I think what's the biggest thing is that I'm a fantasy writer, so I write these characters and diverse characters in the fantasy setting, but I also think it's so important to see us in just regular settings, see us just loving different types of music, loving hip hop, because those things are just as important as seeing us, slay dragons, seeing us go to the doctor, seeing us walk with our moms to the grocery store in books or in media. Those are just as important because those are still everyday life things that we experience. And it's so important to be able to connect with someone who has seen or has lived through your experience too, because you then feel like you're not abnormal with it.
Exactly.
It's not strange. It's normal.
It's normal.
So I think you writing about hip hop, which, some people might go like, why would you write about that? Because it's important, because little girls need to know that there are other little girls and big girls who love hip hop, who love to listen, who love to dance. And it's so amazing that you, again, are really trying to champion that essence of childhood and child wonder in the mundane, because kids do love, we love to see children and they're like, look at the picture I made, and it's maybe just a couple of sticks put together, but they're excited about that. Exactly. And I love that you really are trying to harness that excitement, and let them know that it's great to love things and great to love these different types of venues of yourself. I think that's really awesome.
Yes. So that's my thing. I just want little kids to know that, there's nothing wrong with them. If you love, little girls can love hip hop. They can, do things that the boys can do. So yeah, that's just the lane that I'm driving in.
Yes, and look, I need to hop in your lane too. I'm right behind you. I'm right behind you.
Yes.
But with that too, as you've written these books and as you've continue to write, how have you seen kind of any shifts in children's literature regarding inclusion and diversity? Have you seen more inclusion? Have you seen more diversity coming from not just Black authors, but really all authors? Or have you seen maybe a downturn in that?
I think that the inclusion and diversity is definitely getting better. I think it's getting better to see like more Black and brown kids in literature, kids literature, but there's still others that aren't being represented. There's kids with disabilities, there's kids with alopecia, there's kids with vitiligo. There's a lot of sections that are still not being tapped into. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't just become with color. There's cultures. There's just so many things that I think that we can still strive to improve in kids literature. So I think there's strides definitely being made, but we're just haven't gotten to all the others. I mean, there's so many groups that we can tap into. And I think more of us as authors just need to do that. I mean, it's great, like I said, to have a main character, but you can always add someone in there that, represents a different, part, like a child in a wheelchair, or something like that, just so they can see themselves. Because there's not a lot of books that you can go to the bookstore in a children's book or a picture book and be like, oh, there's a child in a wheelchair or a child that has alopecia, which is a huge, huge, huge community of children with alopecia. So these are just things that we all can definitely do better in. It's not just, a color or race or whatever. We definitely have to tap into disabilities and just other things, So again, getting better with, still work to be done.
Definitely. I think, like you're saying, I think we're at, we've passed the start line. We're still running, but we haven't made it to the finish yet.
Haven't made it to the finish.
So,
yes.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And kind of with talking about, again, that starting point, I think the biggest starting point, especially for children, are, parents and educators, because those are really the first adults, or they are the first adults they really meet and interact with and get to understand the world as it is. And I want to ask you, how do you think that parents and educators can better effectively foster empathy through children with diverse books that have, kids with disabilities, kids of different colors? How do you think parents can best foster this empathy, understanding, so these children, as they're growing, can see these characters and understand or want to ask more questions?
They definitely need to be intentional about it. When they're purchasing books, you definitely have to be intentional about not always buying the same type of book, especially if you have a child that's, has a disability, is of a different, ethnicity, different color, about different cultures. People do not really understand how to build a diverse library for their kids. So I created like a ebook to help them with steps. Like, here we go. You start here, and then you can do this and you can do that. So that will help them at least get some type of foundation on how to start building a diverse library. Because I think a lot of people or parents who just don't think about it. And it goes both ways. It doesn't have to be just, like a person of color, or they can, buy diverse books as well, and vice versa. I think that parents just have to really be intentional about bringing diverse and inclusive books into the library. It starts at home, and that will definitely help build empathy. Let them understand that this is the world that we live in. These are the type of, interactions you will have. And so it's not a culture shock or a shock to them when they go out into the real world and meet different kids at school and things of that nature. So being intentional is key with building a diverse library for their children.
I definitely agree. And I think, as living in the US, and we are one of the largest melting pots on the planet, you get to really experience and meet so many different people and children from different backgrounds. And we all know children are always the first ones and boldest ones to ask questions, or at the point and be like, why they got that on? Why they look like this?
No filter. No filter.
So I think being able to teach them, it's okay to ask why, but also know and understand why you're asking. If you've never seen a child in a wheelchair, you're going to ask, why aren't they walking? And, if you've never seen alopecia or you don't know what that is, you're going to ask about it. So I think being able So even when kids do see kids like this or see kids who are different from them and they come back and ask parents, like you said, building that library, letting parents have those tools to really start, answering those questions, that is fostering empathy and understanding. So we do have more empathetic children who not only just see themselves, but also see other children, and get to, again, connect with them in different and
Yes.
various ways.
Yes, and parents definitely have to set the example. If they see
Yep.
you reading and inclusive books, or you're doing those things, kids they'll follow. You have to be the example. So that as well.
Definitely agree. And with that too, now that we kind of talked about like the internal of like children reading and seeing examples being put forth by their parents and educators, what do you think the role of media outside of just literature, and probably pop culture does help? How do you think it's helping shaping the way children's literature and voices are becoming more inclusive? Have you seen any changes in that? Do you think that is a big role in playing for children to see each other and see other children differently? How do you feel about that?
I think media definitely plays a huge role in that. Again, I think media, it's like a double-edged sword. It's sometimes they get it right, and then sometimes they get it really wrong. So you just have they have parents and everyone just has to be careful of what they allow to come into, what they expose their children to, because you never want your child to get an idea or perception of a certain group or a person from the media. That's why it's so important that they have to start with that empathy, that education at home, so they are not influenced. Because the media is like it's huge. I mean, it's everywhere. Social media, news, blah. I mean, you can't get away from it. Not even just for kids, for adults, basic everybody. And social media is like, it's a huge conglomerate. It's just what it is. That's the world that we live in. But I think sometimes they get it right, but I think sometimes it's just way off. Especially in this day and time. I think that people are irresponsible with certain things that they say, and if you're not talking to your child about certain things, that can stick in their head, and then they're stuck with that perception of hearing something and then running with it. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not correcting it, it's just
Fosters
a
and
lot.
it
Yes,
grows.
yes. So I just think it's very important that parents do their due diligence at what their children are ingesting from social media, and that is definitely something, again, they have to be intentional about.
I agree. And I think having authors like yourself being on these platforms to really champion this room for diversity and inclusion and representation is so important for parents then to look back and say, okay, there are authors out there, there are writers and other forms of media, whether it be television, whether it be magazines, even, anime and comic books, and cartoons.
Yes.
So being able to, again, be on these platforms too, to make sure that children can see that there are safe spaces and spaces of inclusion, um, that they can, again, learn from and understand better about themselves and then about the world around them. I think those are, again, play very significant roles in making sure that children, have a world where they can see everybody for their differences and still accept them and understand them on some level. I think that's
Yes.
awesome. And kind of with that too, I I come from the fantasy realm of diversity and
Mm-hmm.
writing, and it's very different of how I kind of coach and talk to fantasy writers, um, versus, again, you would talk to a inspiring author. So what kind of advice would you give an author or writer who is wanting to contribute to diverse children's literature? What steps or tools do you think they would really need to help them better achieve this goal?
I think if someone wants to write children's literature and they want to bring in diversity and inclusion, you want to make sure that you're being authentic. You want to represent the character or authentically. If they're an African American child or group, you want to represent them authentically. So that's for me, that's the main thing. You never want to write a story or, again, perceive a certain group as something that they're not. So I would definitely say, just be authentic with it, and just go from there. But authenticity is the key, definitely, to write and be authentic for whatever group that you're writing about. Just don't make things up and throw stuff in there, because it's people who know, or they're gonna know. They're gonna know off the bat. So just be authentic with it. That's it. Just be authentic.
I certainly agree with that. I think authenticity is something I think all authors who write with diverse backgrounds, who write in voices that haven't been heard or uplifted, we really try to push for and strive for. Because even though we, again, sometimes are writing about dragons or writing about, the simple things like maybe going to the store or loving hip hop, there has to be some level of authenticity from the writer to the reader.
Exactly.
And I think
Yes.
it's so important. And I think that's what helps, again, better give space for us to voice our opinions and voice our stories in a safe way and a healthy way for children and adults and young adults to enjoy this type of media.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, do some research. There's nothing wrong with researching, some aspect that you're not really sure of. But yeah, you never want to slight anyone or any group because you're not sure of something and you just, well, I'll just put this in there. No, we don't want to do that.
That's true. And again, I thank you, Paula, for this great conversation. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love coming
Yes.
on and just talking about, diversity is so important to me for little girls just to see themselves in stories as not as just a background friend, but as like the main character, the heroine. It's very important for me. So I just love coming on and talking about it.
Of course. And as you're leaving the lounge, I would love for you to share some tips or things you're working on, or how other people can connect with you if they want to see you or read about your books.
So right now I am promoting my third book of the Peyton's Journey series. It comes out November 5th. It's a Christmas book. It's The Secret of the Golden Clues, Peyton's Christmas adventure. And this is the third book in the Peyton's Journeys book series. And that is on pre-order now. And it officially comes out on November 5th. So I'm super excited about that because I love Christmas. So I wanted to have a Christmas book in the series. And then I am working on a book outside of Peyton's Journeys. This one's for little boys, little brown boys out there who love trucks and cars. So I'm excited about that. That'll be out in February. And then the fourth installment of Peyton's Journeys will be out in May during Mental Health Month. And it touches on her having anxiety, which is something that I deal with greatly. And I wanted to just bring awareness to it for little kids. So that will be out in May of 2025. So I'm excited about a lot of things that are coming up. You can find me on Instagram under author Paula Banks. My website is paulaYbanks.com. And I'm on Facebook as paulaYbanks.com as well.
Again, thank you again, Miss Paula, for coming on, sharing some tips, sharing some coffee. Look, even though I don't drink coffee, I'll do a little decaf. So if you have like
little something.
Yeah, little something. If you got a certain type, let me know. I'll give it a try, like on a day or a week where I know I need to be busy. So
yes, girl. Coffee's everything.
Yes, but again, thank you again for being on the lounge, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you for having me. You guys have a great afternoon.
It was so great to have Miss Paula Banks on. She is such a magical author, and she's such an inspiration to little Black girls everywhere. So I'm so happy to have her on at the lounge. Today's little Wins Writing Corner is keep it short and sweet for y'all. What I have going on writing wise, Well, kind of now having to work on book 6 in the God Silence series. Book 5 has been doing really well and getting great reviews. So I'm just so blessed and thankful for that, and everyone who's been supporting and reading that, as well as all those who have been supporting and reading our books in our publishing house, Wins Books Publishing, and supporting all of our authors there too. It means the world to all of us. We really appreciate it. Remember, everybody, magic in literature is always within reach. And we're always happy to have you here at the lounge. And until next time, we hope to see you back here at the lounge. Keep your mind open, keep your favorite drink or snacks close, and cheers to the next read. Bye.